Hi, Grace. Hello, Grace. Hello. How are you? Hello, Frida. Can't hear anybody. I don't know if they can hear me.
I had some network issues, but I'm back. Hello.
Audio now unmuted. Hello, Grace. Please, Gary. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Wow, awesome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I hear you better. You were a bit far away, but now I can hear you. So how are you all?
Hello.
How are you all keeping safe up over there?
We are doing good. I hope everyone is home.
Yes.
Yeah, we are doing good.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
Hello. So, I can say our topic master is in. So good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Sorry, I hope you all have a good day. So today is when we are going to finalize the stages of biomedical knowledge translation. That was cohort 1. And Blazer Moremi is going to take us through. So our meeting agenda for today will be, our topic master is Moremi Blazer, who will be taking us through the manufacturing stage of biomedical knowledge translation. And then we go to Doc. Doc will be giving us additional notes, additional comments and suggestions. And then we will be having a session of questions and also comments. Anyone who would like to give extra comments. Then from there we can make the announcements and adjourn the meeting. So hello, Moremi.
Hi.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I hope everyone is fine. Saizi ndio natoka job. I'm sorry about that. It has been a crazy day. Wow.
Yes. Talk about crazy. It's crazier than crazy. You should say it's crazier than crazy of the all days.
Yeah, actually, I've been on TikTok and also been physically involved in the protests, and that is why I'm having this Homa. But all the same, I'm fine to go.
Thank you for your work, what you've done for us, Monsieur Moremi. Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I have been seeing watching news that the parliament itself has to be
we needed the Gen Zs to be heard.
Yeah. Now what has happened? Did they vote before the parliament was breached?
Yeah, they had already voted and the bill had been passed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so unfortunately, the president now has to either vote in or take the bill again to the parliament for amendment, or else it's gonna be hectic and tedious because the Gen Zs are not up. They are saying that the fight is not over.
Well, the president, I don't see him lasting more than this week. If the parliament has been, you see this what happened in Burkina Faso, exactly the same thing. Those guys in Burkina Faso, the old president who has been there for 27 years, was forcing the parliamentarian to vote that he takes another 5 years. to increase the stamp. And then there, Gen Z went into parliament, just like what you saw today, and set the parliament on fire. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah. You see, that's what's happening. I mean, the parliament's been bad. They cannot come back to do anything. So they can't make decisions outside the house. That means the parliament is ineffective. And so the president in Burkina Faso fled the country. He ran away from the country. So, yeah. And so I do not see that Mr. Ruto surviving another week of this intensive thing, because they have now what they have done by voting yes, they have given the Gen Z the license to go to State House. Yeah.
Anyway, that we shall talk that is an AOB. As for now, I want us to concentrate on the topic of today, which is distribution stage of biomedical knowledge translation.
Yes.
And concerning that, I will give examples related to the current states, so that we can have a deeper understanding of the same topic. So the distribution stage of biomedical knowledge translation, that is KT, is a critical phase that bridges the gap between research findings and the application in clinical practice, healthcare policy, and patient outcomes. This stage ensures that new biomedical knowledge reaches the relevant stakeholders in the effective, accessible, and impactful manner. The goal is to facilitate the adoption of evidence-based practices, improve healthcare delivery, and ultimately enhance patients' health outcome. So the key components of the distribution stage, we have about 4. So one is identification of target audience. Number 2 is development of dissemination strategies. Number 3 is tailoring messages for different audiences. Number 4 is engagement and collaboration. So to expand on that, I will embark on number 1, identification of target audiences. So in this category, we have healthcare professionals. This group includes doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and other healthcare providers who can directly implement new knowledge in clinical settings. We have also policy makers and administrators. These stakeholders use research findings to inform healthcare policies, guidelines, and organization practices. We have also patients and general public. They educate patients and empower them to make informed decisions about their health and treatment options. Number 2, development of dissemination strategies. In this, we have publications in scientific journals. Peer-reviewed journals are traditional credible platforms for disseminating new research findings to the scientific community. We have clinical guidelines and protocols. Translating research into practice guidelines help standardize care and ensure consistency in treatment approaches. We have educational workshops and seminars. Interactive sessions for healthcare professionals can enhance understanding and implementation of new knowledge. We also have mass media and digital platforms. Utilizing websites, social media, webinars, and online courses broaden the reach and accessibility of biomedical knowledge. Number 3, we have tailoring message for different audiences. Healthcare professionals emphasize the clinical relevance, efficacy, and practical application of new findings, use technical language and detailed data to support implementation. We have policymakers. They highlight the implication for public health, cost effectiveness, and policy reform. Provide concise summaries and clear recommendations. We have patients and public. Use plain language and relatable examples. Focus on the benefits, potential risk, and steps they can take to improve their health based on their new knowledge. Number 4, we have engagement and collaboration. Multidisciplinary terms. Collaboration among researchers, clinicians, and educators ensures that the knowledge is accurate, relevant, and feasible to implement. Community involvement. Engaging with patients, advocacy groups, and community organizations can facilitate the dissemination process and improve the relevance of the information. So, I wanted to give an example of right now, the current situation. We have the gas masks, because in Kenya we have protests, and the one thing that is scaring most of the Gen Z is the tear gas. So one of the guy identified these issues, and then he came up with this strategy of making gas mask. So for that to happen, so that he could start that business, he needed to identify his target audience. So he went to the Gen Zs and asked some of them, what do I need to improve so that the gas mask can sell? And that is what the Gen Zs told the person, that we need black masks and that they need to be effective against the tear gas. So the person identified the target audience, number 1. So the second thing is development of dissemination strategy. So the second thing was to start making the gas masks to be black, so that they can convey the message of, we are going to reject the finance bill. At the same time, they are helping to fight against the tear gas. Then tearing messages for different audiences. So he used social media such as the X, the Twitter, formerly now known as the X, so that he can tailor the message that he is selling the gas mask. Then engagements and collaboration. He used TikTokers and other socialite media personnel, so that he can get to distribute the gas mask. So, giving that examples, we embark on the challenges in the distribution stage. There are some of the challenges in the distribution stage include complexity of information. Biomedical research often involves complex and highly specialized knowledge that can be difficult for non-specialists to understand and apply. Number 2, resistance to change. Healthcare professionals and organizations may be resistant to adopting new practice due to entrenched habits, skepticism, or concepts about disrupting established workflows. Number 3, research limitation. Limited funding and resource can constrain the ability to effectively disseminate information, particularly in low-resource setting or underserved communities. Number 4, variability in healthcare systems. Differences in healthcare infrastructure, regulatory environments, and cultural context can affect the distribution and adoption of new knowledge. So, after having these challenges, so what are the strategies to overcome the challenges? So number 1 is simplification and clarity. So develop clear, conscious, and easily digestible materials that distill complex information into actionable insights. I may give an example of use maybe pamphlets, use leaflets that are not that detailed, but they give an overview of what you're presenting. Number 2, evidence of effectiveness. Provide robust data and case studies that demonstrate the real-world impact and benefit of new knowledge. So come up with something that will show us that this thing is working. You can, maybe if you have developed a gas mask, come and show us that this gas mask is working. Come putting it on and tell us, put it out there, give example so that we can see that the gas mask is working. Then number 3, capacity building. Invest in training and education programs that enhance the ability of healthcare professionals and organizations to understand and implement knowledge. As Kikuyus, we say, if you have not put something out there, nobody will ever know. So after you have put that thing out there, enlighten the people. Because some people tend to think that this thing is not working, or it is, how has it come to change what is already there in the market. Show them how beneficial it is, how it is gonna be productive, how it is gonna solve the challenge that was experienced. Okay, number 4, adaptation to local contexts. Tailor dissemination strategies to fit the specific needs, preferences, and context of different healthcare systems and population. Try to find a gap and fill that gap. That is what we want. That is what people need to hear. Relate with them. I want to give an example of somebody, a friend of mine, who came up with a machine that can cut circles when you are doing woodwork. Before then, people used to cut straight, but it was a challenge to cut circles. So he came up with something that can cut circles in woodwork. So he saw a gap that needed to be filled. So adapt to local contexts. Then, in conclusion, the distribution stage of biomedical knowledge translation is vital for ensuring the research findings are effectively communicated and applied to improve healthcare outcomes. By identifying target audiences, developing tailored dissemination strategies, and overcoming barriers to adoption, this stage facilitates the practical application of biomedical research. Successful distribution not only enhances the quality of care, but also bridges the gap between scientific discovery and real-world health benefits. Thank you. I'm Isaac Moremi, Blizla. So I'm going to give Grace to take us through the next stage of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Blazer. Isaac, sorry, I used to call you Alex. Sorry. We have gone through the first page. The last page today was the last page of the biomedical knowledge translation. That was the distribution stage. We started with the exploration stage, then we went to externalization, then we went to formalization, we went to ideation, then we went to manufacturing. Hello?
Grace, we can't hear you.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now you can hear you. You had gone away somewhere. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The internet is a bit slow here in Nairobi, so maybe you can bear with us.
I don't know whether
But
it's
I hope
internet.
now
You're now very clear. Yeah. You had gone away somewhere. Okay.
No, I'm still in the same position.
Okay.
Okay, so as I was saying that we started with the first stage, and now we're in the last stage of the biomedical knowledge translation. Just a recap of what we did. The first stage was exploration, then finalization, formalization, we went to ideation, prototyping, sorry, and then we went to manufacturing. That was last week, and now we are doing the distribution stage. Thank you so much, Isaac, for that nice presentation. So back to you, Doc, for additional comments on that.
Oh, thank you, Grace. Wow, now we come to the distribution stage, which is the real deal. It's at the end of the mountain. It's like you've been climbing the mountain, then you are at the top. But we're not at the top yet. And I hope that you take all this knowledge very seriously, all of you. because now I'm actually impressed by the Gen Z, by your creative prowess. You have shown extreme creativity, which you want to maintain that with, and never let anyone tell you anything else. That means salute no one, by the way. Salute no one, by the way, because creativity is yours. You are creative people. You are creative, that means you are creators. And I think what's happening, what is itching these guys, the old geezers like me who are out there, is wondering how are these guys creating their own life, creating success. And you can see in some of those clauses what try and tax the creators in you. Like you are a creator, you're online, you're creating stuff. They want to eat that money. Yeah. So that is now, it's a big lesson for them that that money is not theirs to eat. But you are creators, that's what it's about. And see, this process, it's called translation process, is a process of creation. Remember, in the very first beginning, we talked about the Genesis moment, which is before exploration begins. Genesis 1:1. That's what it's all about. That's where it all begins. That's called Genesis. And we are told in the beginning, God created the earth, heaven and earth. And that time, the place was, the earth was without form or void. It was without form and void. And he said, and the Spirit moved over the waters. Now, I just want to remind you what is waters. The Spirit moved over the waters. Waters are your thoughts, your emotions. Those thoughts that keep on coming inside you, you're wondering what to do. That is what called waters in biblical terms. Water is not the Indian Ocean water. Waters are the emotions, those feelings. So the Spirit moves over the waters. And that moment is when and that moment suddenly clicks in your mind. Some people call that aha moment. Aha moment. Like what you have given us example about gas masks. Really, that's an aha moment. Because the Spirit moves over the waters. And then you say, aha, people need light. That's what you're talking about, identifying gap. That gap is a movement in your consciousness that tells you there's a gap. He's not, imagine a lot of people, hundreds of people can see that people are suffering from gas masks, gassing, being gassed, or tear gas, but none of them, out of those millions, only one person said, I can create gas masks. See, that is what's called movement. And the Spirit moved over the waters. The next statement you're told, it says, let there be light. So creating something is shedding light into a new thing that's about to emerge. So, and let there be light. So in this case, when the Spirit moved, and then he said, let there be light. And the light was creating gas masks that are going to help people deal with those nasty gas cannons. Yeah. Yes, those tear gas. Well, I don't know how effective it is because tear gas, and even if the tear gas, if the mask is wet, you can put in some water, the water neutralizes that gas in tear gas. That if you have a wet handkerchief or even wet mask, then the gas is not going to affect you because it's going to get neutralized. So that's the thing. So you see, this process is very deep. I'm not thinking somebody cannot just come up with that. The Spirit has to move. When I say very deep, it comes from the Spirit sense itself, deep in your consciousness, even to identify the audience. And the way that you get to identify the audience is that you have to be within the audience. That's what's most amazing. You cannot identify the audience from outside. Mm-hmm. So you identify the audience by the process of dwelling among them. You see, that's what you hear, and the Spirit dwells among them. So you have to dwell inside the audience. That is when you actually identify the need. So, and I'm telling you this because some people in academia, believe that you can sit in a university in the ivory tower, do your own research there, and then you go to the village and try to implement. No, even if you did that, you try to implement, you are never going to identify the audience. Identifying the audience is not saying that there's so much hunger in Kapenguria, so let's go and take food to those people. By creating a decision from an office somewhere in Nairobi, or even say Boston, identifying the audience is living among the audience. So the identity can move inside you. Then you get to know the people. Knowledge. That's what's called tacit knowledge. Identify the knowledge. I'm thinking it was not possible for somebody, say, sitting in Europe, to identify the audience needing gas masks on Nairobi streets. See, that person was on the streets in Nairobi, so that's how he identified the audience. That process is known as process of immersion. You have to be immersed into the situation in order for you to see or to identify, to see, then you can point a finger at it and say, this is the gap. Okay, so big problem we have in people in the research, academic research, is it is disassociated from the audience. It's separate from the audience, separated. Now, to emphasize that point, particularly in all creation, creating new market, because what you're talking about is new market creation. Stuart Hart, who some time ago when he wrote his book called Capitalism at the Crossroads, he was talking about the capitalism in the West going to capitalism in the South, the developing countries. He was teaching companies about this process exactly, and he called it radical transactiveness. That you have to transact radically with the people. Now you guys can go that statement, radical transactiveness. Radical transactiveness is a process of indwelling among your audience. And then indwelling among the audience. So what he was doing, he was teaching students at Cornell University to advise companies like SC Johnson on how to distribute their products in a Kenyan market. So he got students to go and live in Kibera. He was supremely wild. So for 3 months, the students, they could say, I want to go there. So they would go and live inside the slum, and they would live in somebody's slum house, and they go through the motion of life inside the slum. These are kids who are very privileged, because as you know, Cornell University is the Ivy League. So these are top students who have got lots of money. The parents are quite wealthy, but they had to live in the slum because they want to come back to the United States and work in strategic business development unit at a big company, a multinational corporation such as SC Johnson, to advise what that company needs to do in order to gain market to the people who live at the bottom of the pyramid, let's say like in the slum of Nairobi. So the question is, how can you sell pyrethrum products to people living in the slum of Nairobi? Yeah, and so they had to leave. SC Johnson makes household products besides pyrethrum. They make products for cleaning utensils, stuff like that. And so that he wrote a whole book called Radical Transactiveness. Basically, that is how you know to identify the audience, by living among them. And him, according to what he was saying, that you need to be among the people, within the people, inside the people, for no less than 1 year. Now see, he's advising the American students so that they don't think that they can sit down here in New York City and write strategies for finding new market for their products in a developing country. But now we are not in New York. We are right inside the audience. That means that there is lots of opportunity for discovery inside where you are right now. And that you can find the gap because you're in the audience. That's what the message is about in this session. You are inside the audience. The audience is within you because you are embedded or you are immersed in the audience. As I said, this is an immersive process. Since once you have identified the audience, then we're assuming that you have Remember, we came from ideation, prototyping, manufacturing. You have idea of manufacturing a new product that you want to distribute. So this product that you want to distribute, that process in business is known as new market creation. See, creating a new market for your product. For example, what you heard about the gas mask, that is a new market because nobody has ever created a gas mask to combat, to combat what? To combat these inflammatory gases being thrown by the people from the opposite side. Okay, so there are no gas masks like that. So you want to create a new market creation. This process is there for everything. And why it becomes very difficult, because most people are not willing to immerse themselves into the situation. The situation itself is not a problem, it's just a gap that needs to be filled. So, and you cannot shed light in such a gap from outside. So you have to be inside. Then from there, once you have identified the audience, and you and the audience are the same, that there's no boundary between yourself and the audience, that you're inside one another, that you're immersed into the audience. This means even the process of dissemination is built within, because you have to disseminate, you have to raise awareness, people to become aware of what you're doing. That's in business terms known as marketing. So marketing is where you start disseminating knowledge about your product. Some of these marketing ideas can be expensive, others are just grow organically. It's depending on how well immersed you are in the audience. If you're very immersed in the audience, then the market just grows naturally, but doesn't mean that you're not putting a lot of effort. You're actually putting a lot of effort as yourself. And that's where the costs come in, because you have to be immersed there, and because it might require you to print out some things, pamphlets, brochures, make phone calls, and disseminate the word through social media and all that. Okay, so then when you're disseminating your knowledge, you're disseminating your idea in the marketplace, you get feedback from the people. And that's when you call what's called the third stage is called tailoring, because you get feedback. From that feedback, you can now take that knowledge and say, how do you improve the process? How do you improve the product? And so you have to be open to feedback. And I think what is some of the challenges that Isaac indicated, the biggest challenge is resistance to change. What is called resistance is actually not resistance. It is that the people have not understood what you're telling them. People are not resisting change. And you see, most people who are creating things, they want to create things, then they take to the market, and then they want the market to take it. And then when try to push it in the market, they say these people are resisting. People do not resist. Yeah, they're not resisting, is that they have not understood, because there's no radical transactiveness. That's why this thing of radical transactive, very important, particularly projects to do with doctors. It is very, very hard to get doctors to adopt a new process. You have to take them through. You have now to put yourself in the shoes of the doctor, so that the doctor can actually agree. They can see you as a colleague. It has to have this coexist. Like he knows that you imagine you're talking the same thing, so that they can understand. And so this is what's the hardest part. Damien, you're getting feedback from your line, I think. Damien. Okay, so that is the hardest part, because most people say that people are resistant to change, but it's not that they're resistant to change. It is that the idea that's being communicated is not aligning. Message is not comprehensive. You could say it's not coherent. You know, the word coherent means that it is coherent is like adherent, it's not holy. the message does not hold, does not stick. In order for the message to stick, the message itself, the technology itself does not have to, it doesn't have to be the most brilliant technology. Because what some people do is that when they have created a solution, they say, my solution is so great that nobody would reject it. And then they take it to the market and they find nobody is using it. You say, what went wrong? It's because the technology was not coherent. Okay? The communication was not coherent. People did not even get what you're talking about until you downsize to it. That's what Isaac was saying, that communicate with a local language. Even better, you hire local people who speak the local vernacular so that you can communicate. And you saw what M-Pesa did. M-Pesa, made by a very sophisticated company, Safaricom. But if you look at the language in M-Pesa, it is English, Swahili, mixed up. What's like M-Pesa, like Fuliza. You know, they do that thing because that's the language on the street. Because what Fuliza, people know what's it. That's the language of the age. That's in the street. So it becomes the lingua franca, the language that people speak on the street. Then you want to use it for the products you're making. You can distribute the products that way by adopting the local language. So people, when they're saying it, they don't even realize they're actually saying it because it is in the local language. M-Pesa is just adding M, then becomes something, they understand Pesa is money. Yeah, it's the Fuliza, that's sharing, something like that. Or what is it, Fuliza sharing? Or Sabaza, I don't know. I don't speak so much Swahili. But I think that is how you want to adopt the local language spoken by the local people so that they don't have to find, how do I interpret this one? So even as we go along in this Actuate nation, we want to come with semantic fields. Semantic fields are words that are comprehensible in the local language. You see, the word itself doesn't mean anything. The word in itself points to something else. That something else, the word is a symbol pointing something else. And that thing is funny. It helps to create a meaning. So that's what we are talking about, simplifying the language so that people in different places, as Isaac was saying, that when you're distributing, you'd find people in different places understand the same thing differently. So that means people they create meaning. We have symbols for creating meanings in different way. We're getting feedback from
Hello, Doc. Damian, kindly mute.
Oh, they're watching TV. Frida can mute that person. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and this is the final thing I want to tell you about that, because we're talking about we talked about this challenge which is called variability of the market. The market. Okay, now we're getting a lot of feedback here.
Hello, Elijah. Elijah, kindly mute.
Yeah. We can hear your secrets, Mr. Elijah. Okay. So the market itself is Frida, you're not able to mute. Oh, Frida is not in the online. Hi, Frida.
Hello, Elijah Mosoti, kindly mute.
And can you mute yourself? Okay. Grace, can you mute him?
I'm not a co-host. I'm trying to mute him. Hello, Elijah, kindly mute.
Who is co-host?
I think Doc, you can mute him.
No.
Oh, he has muted. He was muted.
Okay, what are
Hi,
we?
sorry, Doc, I'm not able to join with my browser. Hi.
You're not able to join. What do you mean join? You're not able to join, Frida. Okay, I don't understand. All right, we will talk about this later. So what I was saying is this: that in this variability, that variability challenge, it occurs because people look at the same thing and they understand that thing differently. Because even people have different words for the same thing. So, for example, the word for a cup in Kikuyu is different from the word for cup in say Luo, and it's the same object, and that is the variability. So it becomes the language. And when you now come to innovation, you're going to create something new, and people have to create a new word for it. And you find that people create new words depending on what they think depending on what they think they are going to, or how they think they're going to use that object that you're showing them. And it depends on the first person who sees it. That thing is known as symbolic interactionism. Is the symbols, the things are symbols in people's mind. So when people interact with things, they generate symbols to help them understand meaning. If you don't understand that, you can say, oh, this say for example what happened with M-Pesa in Kenya. In Kenya, M-Pesa was very successful. But then they went to Rwanda, for example, but then they achieved no success. Even Uganda, even Nigeria, South Africa, Johannesburg, M-Pesa could not work there because people are used to something called, when it comes to money, they want the money to be tangible. If the money is electronic, digital money, they understand the money itself has nothing, it is neither physical or virtual. Money is money. It is a system for exchange of value. But then if you go to a country where people understand money as banknotes or coins, so they interact with money, that's symbolic interaction with money in a way that money is physical. And so when you don't have physical money, which people call in Kikuyu, they call fari fari. Maybe that's a Swahili word, I'm not sure. So then you find as if they are rejecting the money and they're not rejecting the money. It is that it is the way they have understood the money to be. That's called symbolic interaction. See, that's the variability of understanding of people. It doesn't mean that those people are less advanced or more advanced. It is just people. People are variable, and that thing called variability is what we call diversity. Now, for all of you, you already know that diversity itself, diversity is the most common phenomena in nature. There is nothing that looks like the other. So we are diverse. So understanding that diversity of humanity is very important when you're creating a distribution program. That because you understand one market does not guarantee you that you understand the other market because of diversity, and doesn't mean that people in the other market who are going to reject your products, it's not because they are not clever enough or because they're stupid, and it's because the way they interact with knowledge is different, or symbols of knowledge is different for them. So they're not just going to spontaneously interact with it. That is why this thing of radical transactiveness, indwelling, being immersed, is very critical to distribution. Yeah. And if you understand that, that takes a lot of patience and it's an expensive process. And one final word I want to tell you about that is a word that was written in the Christian Bible, is what's called putting the last first, letting the last come first. And that's a very hard thing to do because the last are the people who are in the periphery of whatever the market, the consumer. Those are the last. But when you know who are the last, And that's why these guys from Cornell University were going to the slum areas to live there, to understand how they can distribute products for multinational corporation by understanding how the list of the population, how the people who are lowest in the pyramid, how the least can consume. Then if they can understand how the least can consume, even the greater one will just, it will be spontaneous. They will spontaneously consume the product, putting the last first. So I think that principle of putting the last first is discussed in great detail in the book of Matthew. But that's the same principle. It's called putting the last first. But you cannot manage to know who is the last until you dwell among them. See? So that's what it's about. And you cannot distribute. And something else now, how that works, I think someone called who? Nassim Taleb. See Nassim Taleb? In his book, Fooled by Randomness. Fooled by Randomness says that how the random things can just hoodwink you. He said that there's something called the minority rule, the minorities. He says if you can cater for the minority, then the market, the rest of the market, the majority will take in your product. Why? How is that? He was explaining the kosher meat market in the United States. Kosher is the meat for, I think, the Jewish people. They cannot eat certain type of food, meat which has not been slaughtered in a certain way. So if you have a supermarket and there's only one Jewish person living there, then that Jewish person will never shop in your supermarket. What if there are 10? Because he wants kosher meat, and if your meat is not kosher, they're not going to. And if kosher, I think it's a dietary system that eventually you find that if you want to sell to the people, we see people who are Jewish, they cannot eat meat that is not kosher. But people who are not Jewish can eat kosher meat. So why don't you just serve kosher meat and then everybody will be happy? See, putting the last first. When you do that, you find that you are able to create solutions for everybody else because you put the last first. So I think that is the principle, and it occurs a lot in business that you see technologies created. Say, for example, the electric toothbrush. The electric toothbrush was created for people with ALS. That's a motor neuron disease, that they have muscle diseases, that all the muscles are dying because or even people who are elderly who cannot brush their teeth by moving back and forth, back and forth. So they created electric toothbrush. But now electric toothbrush is used by everybody, whether they have ALS or not. See? So that's where innovation comes in, that products that are created for people with disability end up helping everybody else, putting the last first. So you can see in innovations, you want, it's that what's you got, identifying the gap, identifying the audience. Initially, the audience could be, say, for example, patient with particular diseases, particular problem. When they adopt, then you find the consumer product, say like a toothbrush, can get adopted by everybody else, whether they have got what, whether they have got motor neuron disease or not. And so medical innovation, very interesting and very fascinating. So, and I think distribution is what is usually the hardest. And I said creating a new market is not easy because it takes that work of indwelling. And now one final example of how Safaricom did indwelling to create M-Pesa. So M-Pesa itself, it's a great technology, but how did Kenyans adopt M-Pesa? So Safaricom recruited people in the communities. It would call them M-Pesa agents. And then Safaricom had an M-Pesa agent every 5 minutes walk in the whole country. Can you imagine creating such an M-Pesa agent network? How much it costs? It means that In order for them to do that, first of all, they had to listen deeply to the people, called deep listening, by understanding how are people, what are people going to be doing, just to get that knowledge. That's like radical transactiveness. Let's just say that radically transacting the community, and how they did that to transact radically the community is to recruit the everyday person, ordinary woman and Mama Boga, and tell you are going to become our agent. Yeah, and they started off with some people. They didn't have to deposit any money. That's what their initial experiment. So Safaricom was fronting that money to the M-Pesa agents that getting newly recruited, and they wanted an M-Pesa agent every single spot. You see? And this M-Pesa agent every single spot means that you can be someone who has a small kiosk somewhere. You can be someone who sells you sell chicken. Whoever you are, as long as you have contact to the people, then you become an agent. Safaricom spent lots and lots of money to do that, millions. Indeed, Safaricom, they say that they spent about $10 million to build an agency network like that. So it is expensive, it's not easy. Now, if you don't have $10 million to build an agency network, like Safaricom did, obviously Safaricom did not come with $10 million. It had to raise that money from the market. It had to raise that money from the market by doing what? Selling shares. That is why we're saying this process has to be tied together with fundraising. So Safaricom was using the old technology of fundraising. It's called capital formation. So it sold lots of shares in Nairobi. You see that Safaricom shares were sold out, oversubscribed. But today, we are in a much better situation that if you have a product that you want to distribute the whole country, then we can go through quadratic funding to raise money. Or you can, basically, and then of course there's blockchain. So there's very huge opportunities today that you do not want, because raising money or funding your innovation, distribution could be the limiting factor, the ultimate limiting factor to even pay for that indwelling, that radical transactiveness, because all of it costs money, and a lot of money at that. That is when people say burning money. Yeah, burning money like newspapers. So the money gets burned. It's burning. And it's through that burning that you want to create value. Now, what the blockchain has done is tie the process of burning money with market creation. And I think in the next, now today, because we are on the last period, the second iteration, we're going to dive deeper into that, finding how do you burn money, first of all, but using maybe quadratic funding to finance your innovation, because when you come to the distribution space, that is where the money gets burnt completely. The money is not really out there. It's the distribution very expensive, because you have to build a consumer network. All that community education, first of all, recruiting the agents, organizing the agents, creating administrative infrastructure for those agents, the reporting system, how do they talk to each other, managing that whole network, all that is money. And how do you do it? How you now go to organizing, like every so often they have meetings, large meetings and conferences, and you're talking to them. Similarly, now if you're in medicine, you would have to get distribution network through the hospitals, doctors. You have to call them for evening parties, talks, dinners, to launch your product, and then teach them. Then you have to go and meet them in the hospitals and clinics and teach them how to use it. So all that, it costs a lot of money. So indeed, that thing of distribution, the budget for distribution is much, much bigger than the budget, all the other budgets you've created before that. So you have to be prepared. Now, see, that budget for distribution called market development, developing the market after you've created it, is it's a multi-billion-dollar. But see, like Safaricom said, they spent 10 million to just build the agency network, and then when you're building that, it is tied to some revenue coming in, so that it can reach what's called the break even point. That's maybe in 5 years. So you would need money for at least 5 years, and to raise enough money for 5 years to keep in the market. Yeah, otherwise you run out of you run out of gas. For example, if this gentleman who is making masks, he has to distribute those masks, he would need to have money to buy the cloth for the masks. And then he has to maybe, unless he's building the mask by himself, he has to employ several people to do the tailoring. So all those are inputs, and it's now they would be assuming that he's going to sell enough of those masks to pay back for the cloth. But then in the initial stage, he had to have some money, which is called capital outlay, the initial capital outlay, and that is what makes it very, very hard. What is the initial capital outlay to start that process going? And we are talking about the process of market distribution. We are assuming that you already manufactured some products. Okay, so I think we're going to have a lot of fun in the next session, talking about money itself and where is the money. Now, what I want to tell you, the money is in the blockchain. So long as, just like I've seen that ingenuity of the Gen Z in Nairobi, you want to bring that ingenuity into the blockchain money, and then you'll be able to fund all you have been dreaming of. Okay, it's gonna take now the way you know how to use social media. Now it will not be social media only, but it will be social media for money. Let's say money media. That's what the blockchain is about. And so you want to get to know Actuate as much as possible, because what will be coming next, maybe the next year, unless you grasp the opportunity to, at least the opportunity, you can only grasp it if you learn as much as possible what to do with the blockchain, because the blockchain is here to solve all these problems. Financial. All right, we're back to you. Hey, wait a minute. I forgot we have another class.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doc. Yeah, we are 3 minutes to time for African women in DeFi. So thank you so much for those who have made to come for today's session. I know it wasn't easy because we're experiencing some internet issues here in Nairobi due to the protest, and yeah, people had a busy day, but I hope we all keeping safe. So Elijah says that the session was so interesting. Morimi also says that the meeting was awesome and he loved it. He has been present from the week 2 up to date. That was nice. Can't thank you enough, Doc, for the explanation and the engagement. Thank you so much. I think we can fill the form. If you haven't filled the form, kindly fill the form, then we can adjourn the meeting. Yeah.
Right, thank you. I talked too much, but well, I hope it was useful. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for listening, because I want you guys and everyone to succeed, all of us, a lot of success for us by understanding blockchain. All right. Bye now. Let's see you in South African women in